after
Wow.
I quit. And I went to AA for a while. That really helped me stay sober. And
Yeah.
I got a new therapist who specialized in recovery and really started doing some healing work with her.
Welcome to Wild and Finally Fucking Free, hosted by me, soul-fueled storyteller Kylie Fatchett. We dive into the truth-talking, unedited stories of metamorphosis, growth, and evolution. I deeply believe that sharing our stories holds transformative magic. Join us to listen to future humans, change agents, extraordinary ordinary people, healers, and paradigm shifters as we honour the power of our messy, magical stories. Let's get wild and finally fucking free together.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the podcast. I have beautiful Cecily Sailer with me today. Hello, Cecily. How are you?
Hello, I'm well. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I am looking forward to our chat. We were saying both of us love magic, creativity, tarot, etc., etc. So we're going to dive on in. Cecily, for those who don't already know you and your work in the world, could you introduce yourself for us, please?
Yes, I am a creativity coach and a tarot reader and a writer and the creative witch behind a business called Typewriter Tarot, which is a community for what I call creative mystics, people who have a creative streak and who also are interested in peering into the unseen realms, divination, magic, things like that. I live in Texas. I'm a bird nerd. I have a couple dogs.
Bird
Yeah.
nerd. I love that terminology. That's very cool. Very cool. Have you always been a bird nerd since you were little, or is this a recent thing?
It's grown on me. Both my mom and my grandmother were bird people. And my mom would get me up when I was in fourth grade at like 5:30 in the morning some weekends to go to the mall parking lot and get in a weird van with a bunch of old people who were strangers to me. And then we would go to a park and do bird watching. And I was the only kid. So I was a little like, I don't know about this, but over the years, it has definitely grown on me. And then my mom took me and my stepsister on a exclusively birding trip to Costa Rica, where there are more bird species than like in the entire North America. And after that, I was like, okay, now I'm feeding birds. Now I'm cultivating bird habitat. Now I'm looking at birds everywhere I go. Now I'm like telling people, like helping people set up their bird feeders. I'm reminding people, turn off your lights. It's migration. Yeah. So.
Oh my goodness. You're reminding me so much. I've got a dear friend in New Zealand who we always used to joke. We'd go on girls' trips and we'd be like, all right, you are limited to 5 scientific facts about like any animal. She's pretty much equally obsessed with all, but now she is very bird focused. And I actually love it because when she comes over here, we've got a big tree just outside where our outdoor deck is. And there's always like parrots or whatever in there. She's like, oh, did you see there's such and such like a red-breasted, yellow-spotted, bloody. I'm like, no, I did not know that's what that was. But it's pretty. That's as much as but yeah, I understand because I feel like, I don't know, watching birds, I get the same thing with chickens, which I know is a different set, still a bird, but different again. I just feel like there's something that happens inside my nervous system when I'm just watching something in its own natural habitat going about its little, the little hopping and the feeding and the whatevers. It reminds me of the fact that everything is as it should be.
Yeah. I think that's really important and very true. And birdsong is very regulating to our nervous system. It tells us that like the environment is safe and
yes,
that things are just like coming along. But yeah, it's like nice to watch birds. I mean, I guess they're the animal we can most easily see, you know,
definitely.
So it's nice to see them just going about their business. And it's kind of like maybe all the stuff that I'm freaking out about isn't a big
It's not.
deal.
Yeah.
You know, it's everybody's just trying to get through the day and like, live.
Yep.
So
You know, I kind of, it reminds me of that thing where, you know, all of us industrialized, conditioned, you know, people are, you know, pushing and striving and heading towards something. And yet most Indigenous cultures would say our purpose is just to, hello, little person. Cecily's dog's just joined us. Who is this?
this is Queenie.
Oh, happy.
Yeah, she's a Labradoodle. She's very,
It's very cute.
very sweet. Yes.
All the animals. We'll have all the animals.
Yes.
Yeah, but the Indigenous cultures are like, you're here to have an experience. You're just here to live. You're not here to get to anywhere. And when you look at something in nature, you're like, they are not striving for anything. They're just responding to their environment and doing what they like to do. I find the same with fish. I love watching fish. Like there used to be, there is a huge aquarium in Sydney in Australia. It's like, I don't know, maybe 2 floors or 3 floors of like open fish tank where you can just sit and just watch the fish going about their business. And I have the same sort of thing. It's like, I don't actually have, so yeah, that's a good point though. Because if there's no bird song, generally that's like there's predator or something to pay attention to. And I've never thought about that nervous system wise.
Yeah. And I think, unfortunately, bird populations are in major decline, and we've lost like 70% of birds since like 1970.
70%?
Yeah, it's really, really shocking and terrible and tragic. And so, people today are not like, our kids are not hearing as much bird song maybe as we did or our grandparents did. And obviously, you can still live your life, but just it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. And it's really unfortunate that climate change and all of our development, like what you were saying. Yeah, we watch animals they take care of their needs, and there isn't this excessive quest for more, but as humans, our quest for more is really compromising all the other life that we share the planet with.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And continues to do so. I know. Far out.
Yeah.
I want to come back to creativity coaching because I feel like I hear that term all the time, and yet I don't necessarily have an anchor of like, how would you explain that to somebody? Because I feel like I'm only just finding my creative self. So maybe that's actually probably where I needed a creativity coach.
Yeah, I think that, so much of the struggles that we have in life, or like, a lot of the things that cause us trouble in just, doing work, having relationships, being in a family, those same kinds of things impact our creativity. And we live in a world, it seems now, with capitalism having several centuries to really entrench itself, where we get a lot of mixed signals about creativity. It's like creativity is great such that it can produce for the company you work for and increase profits. Like, a company is happy to use your creativity for their profit margins or their marketing or, all of that. But then there's kind of this message that if you have creative energy that you're using just for yourself, that it's suddenly a lot less valuable. And it's something that maybe you should do like when you've done all of the other serious things in life.
Goodness. Yes.
So if you've done your job and taken care of the kids and
when the to-do list is ticked off.
That right. And then along the same line, if you're interested in pursuing a career that's creative, your parents probably are going to encourage you away from that because there's this whole idea of creativity will put you into poverty.
Yep.
And so people who are creative, which is everyone, like even the birds are creative, the animals are creative. Like I think creativity is an energy that we get to have a relationship with. And so when we're trying to be creative or work on a creative project or finding space in our life to come back to creativity, all of the stuff, all of the programming from capitalism and everywhere else is going to get triggered. And so a lot of people have a really like not very fun, kind of difficult time trying to create. And then they think something's wrong with them. And then there's all the perfectionism. There's so many things that can really make having, a creative practice really difficult. So I work with people to kind of see, where is the struggle and where might that be coming from and how can we reframe things? There's also the aspect of like importing the productivity imperative from capitalism onto the creative practice, which is definitely going to make you feel like ass.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
exact opposite of the feeling of being creative for the sake of it. Yes.
Hey gorgeous, we interrupt this gold for a delicious invitation. If your whole body has been whispering more lately, more voice, more truth, more satisfaction, more clients of the soulmate variety, more cash, more you, then this invitation is for you. Potent, my sister mind is officially open. This is my high touch, holy fuck, I'm ready sister mind for rebels in good girl clothing who are done outsourcing their power and diluting their magic to fit into someone else's business formula. If you have been craving a space where your strategy, your voice, and your energy all get to be offered, honored, refined, and amplified, this is it. Inside of Potent, you'll get my eyes on your business every single week, copy mentoring, and that is for brand copy and content storytelling that turns your truth into client catnip, energetic recalibration that helps you unhook old learned limitation patterns, keeping you quiet, not being seen, not being heard, real-time, high-touch, one-on-one coaching that actually sees the bigness of your vision, and the kind of sisterhood that does not flinch when you show up in your full, messy, brilliant, phoenix rising from the ashes glory. This isn't surface level support. It's deep, potent, paradigm shifting work that changes who you are as a woman in business and a woman in life. We start in August. Early open access is open right now. For the month of June 2025, inside of this early access open doors period, you will receive juicy bonuses, extended payment plans, and access immediately to my entire library of storytelling gold. You'll find all the juicy details at kyliePatchett.com/potent. And we fill spaces, and there's only 10 of them, and more than likely only 5 by the time you listen to this, because by that time I will have offered them to the existing cohort, the beautiful original OG circle. We do actually take applications on a first come, first served basis. So come and apply, and let's get back to the magic of the episode.
Yeah. So figuring out how to make creativity and a creative practice sustainable for you and your life, and to conduct it in such a way with a perspective that, makes it feel good. That's really enriching. And I think creativity and magic aren't that different. So when we get to connect with creativity more, there's rewards beyond just the art we produce or the feeling that we get in the moment, though those are really amazing, wonderful things too.
You're just so, I was literally just having a conversation with someone the other day, and I was like, I haven't gotten myself to, because I live in a little country town, and here we have an art group on Wednesday mornings, and everybody comes and does all different types of art. And there's like a mentor person that she's kind of like a multi, what do you call it? Like multi, I'm not getting the right word, but like multidisciplinary artist. So she, can help with a lot of different things, but just gives you sort of tips. But there's no like assigned steps or practices, or like you're not there to produce a specific thing, like a kind of like, I don't know, paint and sip. I don't know if they're a thing in America, but here they're like, come and have some wine and create a resin board to eat your cheese off. I don't know, like that sort of thing. But I was having a conversation with someone, and they're like, why do you think that it takes you so much to get there? Like, I was in flow for ages and ages, and then I stopped because I got into a busy period, and then I can't seem to get back in. And I was like, I think it's actually twofold. First of all, because I've done so many different types of art as a young kid, I'm having difficulty finding the thing that I want to anchor to. And then if I arrive with no set medium or project, I end up just talking to people. So then I sort of feel like, well, now I've taken 5 hours out of my business and I haven't done anything with it. And then that's the second thing. It's a productivity thing. It's like all my hours have to be producing something. And yet I know very well that when I was going regularly, the space and the juice that comes out of just being in the flow of creativity actually made everything outside of that easier. I was happier. I was more content. I was more nourished as a human. I also had lots of different ideas about how to approach something in business, or because my brain was out of the box of my normal four walls and my normal computer screen and all of those things. And I'm like, who told me? But then I look back and go, I did art at high school. And as soon as we got to the stage where you had to pick subjects, I gave art away because my conditioning was like, I wanted to be a doctor actually originally. And so I did straight science and math. So like at grade, 9, which here is like, 13 or 14, I just went, oh no, art's not important because it's not getting me towards where I want to go. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I've been conditioned so well to be a piece in the machine. How do we get out of the machine, Cecily? Oh my goodness. Do you find that is a common thing, that like art has been put, or creativity, I won't say art, creativity in whatever form it is, gets put on the back burner to do the to-do list? How do we re-enter being able to give time and space to something?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I
this
suppose
is
the
no
answer,
one size fits all, is it?
yeah, the answer would, sort of depend on the person. But I think part of it is kind of reconnecting with the version of you that was creative back in the day, or that did feel that sense of permission to just draw or paint or write, and going back to that version of you that really felt the intrinsic motivation to do it, that, creativity is really about expression and having ourselves be like witnessed, and also taking this experience we have as humans that's very perplexing to us, even though it's also beautiful and also difficult, but finding a way to not hold that internally forever, but to do something representational with it and put it outside of ourselves. And so I think because of that, when you start to do that, when you're expressing yourself in that way, then all these other channels are kind of flowing, like you were talking about in your experience.
Very true.
So yeah, like for one thing, kind of revisiting that version of you, and maybe even thinking about, what happened, or what was I told, or what kind of belief was I fed to take me in another direction. And then from there, giving yourself some really low stakes way to just create for the sake of it, like really taking off any kind of project imperative or a deadline or some kind of like, I must get to this point with this thing. Letting yourself just like fuck around, honestly. And,
Yeah.
you know, in your case, like if you go to the artist day, kind of, I think it's great that they have so many different modalities, and just sort of like walking around and asking like, what color am I drawn to, or what modality am I feeling in my body right now, and letting yourself have that kind of spontaneous in the moment experience with it. And I think, yeah. And, you know, you also mentioned like, I don't know which thing I should hone in on, which is another thing that we're really coached into doing as young people. It's like once you get to college, you really have to specialize.
Oh my God.
And it really takes us out of this holistic like idea of who we are, which is very multifaceted. And so you can see how just these pieces of ourselves get left behind, and then we get somewhere in life and we're like, something's missing and I'm not happy.
Yeah.
And sometimes creativity can be a good answer, a good place to kind of bring life back into things.
As you're talking, I'm having so many connections to, like, I feel like when I was young, like I was an only child. I had lots of imaginary friends.
Same.
I had like an entire system of imaginary friends. And I was talking about this on another podcast. I don't know if you know the books, because I think this is an Australian author, but Enid Blyton wrote this series of books called Magic in the Faraway Tree. And that Magic in the Faraway Tree, all of the characters and the entire setting of that series was so clear in my head. And then I connected all of my imaginary places up to that and whatever. And then as I got older and was conditioned that my worth pretty much was in my head, like my intelligence, not anything else. Like, you know, let's just focus on this, like getting ahead. And so it's only really been in the last few years that I've reconnected to the imagination part of myself. I'm just like, oh my God. And I think that's where I wanted to ask you about when you say, you know, the magical, you know, people that are into magic and the creative people that are open to the unseen. Is like, I feel like capitalism, or like the current social order, removes us from the magic and the unseen and the creativity, and attaches us to productivity, working hard, being part of the system. And that's where shit goes wrong, right? I just feel like, let's all just remember magic. So how would you capture, actually, no, before I ask you about magic, I'm interested, had you ever lost your connection to your creativity? Was that part of your journey as well, over that you had to re-find it? Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes. Yes. I was also an only child. I did not have a lot of imaginary friends, but I had pets, and I imagined that they had like imaginary consciousness or something. That, of course, they have a consciousness, but anyway, I imagine they had like, I won't go into it, but yes. So only child, and I, you know, would so often I was the only kid in a space, and spent a lot of time in my head or reading books or things like that. For me, a book was Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, which whose protagonist is an only child. And something about that. And I loved a Hershey bar back in the day. But reading that book, I think it was like, I felt so seen by it that I really wanted to become a writer at that age. So there was some, you know, various attempts at like writing different kinds of things as a young person. And that was around the time that, you know, computers started to be available to people in their homes and all of that. So there was some of that. And then in college, I majored in journalism and started writing for the school paper. And so that was, I guess, like a more professionalized version of creativity. But also as a teenager, or in my late teens, I guess, I also started drinking and had a father who was a heavy drinker and two grandfathers who were definitely alcoholics. And as a shy child from divorced parents who didn't have a lot of I guess like modeling for emotional expression. And, I always felt a little out of place with other kids because other kids who had brothers and sisters just kind of like seemed to know how to
Yep.
interact. And I was like,
Yep. Oh, I'm
always
feeling your heart here.
yeah. And so, alcohol really helped me like socialize and kind of present or bring out parts of myself that I didn't feel like I could naturally sort of bring out without them. And of course, alcohol is addictive. And the years went on and it got worse. And so by, in some of the later years of my drinking days, I really felt no connection to creativity. I mean, alcohol became my main method for coping with emotions, and you use it to kind of numb or distance yourself from the unpleasant emotions, but you end up numbing to everything. And so by the end, I was really I felt very empty. I felt very isolated. I felt pretty hopeless. And like, I think, creativity wasn't like completely gone from me, but there was no good space for it to enter. And I didn't have I wasn't taking the care of myself that would have allowed me to do interesting things with it. And then when I quit drinking and started to heal and recover, tarot came into my life and creativity came back, and I really started making some beautiful connections. Like I had gone through a master's program in creative writing and felt like there are many great things about it, but also it didn't take me where I wanted to be. I didn't know how to utilize it very well. And I felt by the end that, I felt a little more lost creatively than I think I did when I started. And I think because academia, I'm on a slightly different subject, but I'm going to circle it together.
Yeah, I'm feeling you.
But because when my creativity did start coming back, and when I came to like appreciate tarot and had this really interesting encounter with it, I realized that it is a storytelling technology and it actually can serve writers really well. And that started me on this journey kind of exploring what tarot and creativity have to do with each other. First, it was like tarot and writing, but then it's become more broad in terms of tarot and creativity. And I was so close to my thought. Give me one moment. So I noticed also just talking to other people who had done creative writing programs that there was a lot of struggle after their program for them as well. And so even as we go into like deeper into our craft, sometimes these institutions that are also part of capitalism, like they're not asking what creativity is or what process serves us best. It's just like you get into a serious program and then all that stuff I was talking about earlier is going to get activated, but you don't really have anyone to support you with any of that. So you have to like push through. But then by the end, you're like, what is my relationship to creativity now? It's like very, so I think, I guess I'm coming to your second question. Maybe I'll stop. Is there anything?
No. I love, I think though, what I'm taking from what you've said, in terms of creativity and the system that, current social order, if you think about that as a system, because it is, the whole system intends for us to be good worker bees.
Yes.
Creativity, on the surface at least, doesn't serve the system, from the powers that be perspective. And so I agree that, you go into and I found the same in medical science. And I know that sounds a little bit weird because you would think medical science has to be a box. But when I studied medical science, it disconnected me from intrinsic health and well-being, knowing that I had as a human, because it took my knowing, put it all in my head, and then put it in boxes of right and wrong, black and white, etc. And I'm just like, this is not how humans work, right? And that's what you're basically saying about the same thing. It's like I went there to try and deepen my craft. I'm assuming like my intention was to deepen and get more created to my craft, connected to my craft. But actually what happened is it disconnected me from myself and put a system or a structure over the top. And I think that that's where a lot of, and I would say the same for copywriting. I'm all for using a copywriting framework to like respond to then play inside of using your own creativity. But I think when we get to the stage where we're like, this is the correct structure for this page, I'm like, no, because we're all different and we all have different people we're speaking to. We all have different values and voices and all of those things. And I just think any system that seeks to put a one size fits all magic solution over the top of it is flawed by definition. So, unless we're talking about clones, like unless we're talking about, I don't know, a group of genetically engineered Cecilys and Kylies that are all exactly the same, maybe that would work, but I still don't think it would anyway, because then there's environment. Anyway, that's a whole other kettle of fish. I want to come back to what you said about when drinking was the way of, pushing down or not feeling, like numbing out the emotion. Something you'd said in the questions before we did the podcast was when you stopped drinking, you started to really heal. And I thought that was such a clear fork in the road of numbing and trying to push down and then actually choosing to face and heal. Very different energy. Can you tell us a little bit more about that to your comfort, obviously, of what you'd like to share? What happened, or how did you make that? How did you draw the line in the sand, I guess, is my simple way of asking that question.
Yeah. I struggled to quit or modulate my drinking for a long time and always failed, and had tried therapy of a couple, with a couple different people at different times, but also, the way addiction works, it really requires denial. And so while I wasn't ready, I guess, to quit drinking at that time. And so I wasn't going to fully bring that issue into the room, or sometimes I would mention it and the therapist just did it. It was like, well, just, don't drink if you're tired or you're hungry. And I was like, I think you have no understanding of like what's going on with me and alcohol. But it got to a point where like I was pretty high functioning. Like, no one was pulling me aside and saying, hey, you have a problem, or like, this is like, you're really fucking up everything. And so, however, like I started a relationship, or like a relationship I had, this partner moved in, and we had been long distance for a while. So I was also under this illusion that like when he arrived, that I would suddenly like not have this problem anymore. But obviously that's not what happened. So there was someone, seeing the problem. And so a little bit of it wasn't like an ultimatum per se, but I had also kind of invested a lot in the relationship. And it became clear to me that I was going to lose the relationship if I didn't change something. But there was also an incident where like I lost a bunch of my stuff, like 2 instances back to back. And both times, like they were related to, it was connected to my drinking. And the second time it happened, the way I lost my stuff was so like unusual in a sense. Like it was just very startling to me that it happened in the way that it did. And that I took that as a message from the universe. Like, you're going to lose everything if you don't take some action now. And I think I had been kind of desperate for a while, but I didn't want to, part of me like desperately wanted to go to some like rehab space and spend a month like not working and just like figure it out. But I also felt a tremendous amount of pressure from myself, I guess, to like keep functioning. And so, yeah, it was just a day where like, and I also had a real stigma around Alcoholics Anonymous. I just thought like, well, the day I have to walk into an AA meeting, like I'm just a loser. Like but that, you know, by the time I was like, I can't keep doing it anymore. I think like it's time. I called the AA hotline. I talked to a lady to ask how the meetings were to like build up that courage. And then the next day I went to a meeting, and that was the first day I didn't drink anymore. And so it was a spiritual intervention in a sense, and also like a buildup of my awareness of the problem for a long time. And then finally surrendering to the fact that like, it's not all these other things I'm trying to fix. Like this is the main problem.
This is, well, at least this is the surface of the main problem.
Exactly.
This is the symptom of the main problem, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. And then how and where did you discover tarot? Like how did this, because it seems like it was a similar period of time, like a fairly close in.
Yeah. It was like a year and a month after I quit. And I went to AA for a while. That really helped me stay sober. And I got a new therapist who specialized in recovery and really started doing some healing work with her. And in that first year, I mean, when I went to that first AA meeting, there were, you know, at the end of a meeting, people get up and get chips. And it's like, I've been sober for 30 days. I've been sober for 90 days. I've been sober for a year, 6 months. And just seeing someone get like a 30-day or 60-day chip that evening, I was like, I'm never going to make it there. You know, it just seemed so impossible. And yet I continued to make it. Yeah. And having spent time in the AA rooms, and I think AA has some of its problem. It does have like limitations for people, but it's also free. And it's usually happening somewhere near you. So it's very accessible.
Yeah, very true.
But being in those rooms where people were sharing their stories and their struggles, and, you know, hearing people who'd really kind of had a worse journey, and people who had not had a worse journey, and just like all the different ways that it manifested for people around this thing that I felt like I couldn't really talk about in a truly honest way with people in my life, not because they wouldn't accept me, but just because if you're not if you're not experiencing it yourself, it really doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So I think just the gratitude I felt for all of these people sharing their stories, and for the therapist that was helping me, and having come from a place where I felt like nothing was going to change, and I felt incredibly hopeless, to finding out that a lot, like everything could change.
Yeah.
I was like, there was some sort of like a little evangelist in me that wanted to like let people know. And so I considered going to school to become a therapist, but I was like late in my 30s and still had student debt. So that same partner had moved in with a tarot deck, and my house was small. We were trying to get rid of some stuff, and we already had a deck. I actually had a deck for like 15 years, but never used it because I thought you had to be like psychic, or you had to have a grandmother who would teach it to you or something.
Yep.
So I gave this deck to my stepsister, and we did a little reading with a little guidebook. And I knew her I know her very well. And the cards were just like so spot on that I was like, oh, this is the modality I'm looking for to try and use story, which is like something I already really cared about, to show people that possibility is there, or transformation can happen, and not with like an agenda, to have like real conversations with people about their lives and their hopes, and look for pathways to, you know, move in that direction.
I love this. I think I similarly, I've often, when I was much younger, gone for tarot readings, or, you know, numerology or like all the things, all the different things. I have a pretty solid habit of around my birthday in January, I'll have, some sort of reading. But I learned how to read with a specific deck because a friend of mine who was also doing the form of massage that I used to do was starting like a how to read tarot. And I was like, oh, but I don't have I wouldn't call myself psychic. I wouldn't call I'm not, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, oh, no. So I had a similar kind of reference point, I think, of and then I do have a couple of friends that are like, I would not touch those cards because they're like, connecting
Right.
to the devil. I'm like, oh, okay. Anyway, I love you have, so tell me the process. You said that you paired the tarot with writing initially and then have kind of broadened to all sorts of creativity. Can you tell us more about how you see the connection of the two and how they open each other up?
Yeah. I think tarot, for one, just like literally, tarot is an art object. So it's the product of someone's creativity, and
Yes.
every card is a work of art.
Mhm.
So just by looking at the images, there's some kind of creative stimulation happening and some kind of creative questioning and curiosity that gets sparked. Like, what's happening here?
Yes.
What could this be telling me? And then when you're using the cards or reading the cards, let's say you do a 3-card pull and you
Mhm.
have those 3 all next to each other, your brain and your intuition will start to look for and craft some story or
yeah.
connection between those 3 points.
Mm.
And then if you're reading for someone else, there's the intuitive and creative feel of what's going on for them and what question are they asking.
Mhm.
So I think it just started, and also, stories were so powerful to me, as an only child, as I said, they were like my friends. And
Yeah.
so, seeing how tarot could create a storytelling experience that lands for you in a different place, it doesn't go straight to your mind. Kind of like you were talking about being trained to just sort of do all the stuff from the neck up.
Yep. Yep.
And so I think tarot lands for us more in the gut or the soul or the heart. I'm not sure exactly where. And so for writers, who I was thinking primarily about because I had done a creative writing program and then I
Yes.
worked in nonprofits that were related to writing and libraries and stuff like that. It occurred to me that using the cards could be very generative when you get stuck in a creative practice. My specialization in graduate school was fiction, and I had this background in journalism, and I think my imagination was just not as rich as yours, perhaps.
Oh,
And
no,
so-
I don't know. Not anymore, anyway.
Well, you still have it. But it felt difficult to generate a fully imagined character. And that makes sense. There's so much, it's hard to even know yourself fully, much less someone you made up. So I could see tarot as a way to bring ideas into the conversation or help fill in some of those gaps, or even
Yes.
show a plot line where I love playing with the language and I love imagery, but creating plot was not really something I was very good at. And so I think the cards, if you want to use them in that way, can sort of map out something. And so that creative load isn't completely on you. And I
Yes.
think because of the training we get, we try to just figure it out mentally and solve the problem. But there are other places and sources where the answers can come. And I think tarot can, help fill in some of those spaces, but also just using it will connect you to this notion that you're talking to something bigger than yourself, and that you're moving from a more intuitive place, which we also don't, that's trained out of us as well. So when we come back to that kind of intuitive movement, I think we can solve problems differently in our creative work. So it kind of has a really multi-pronged
I am loving all of
magic.
this because as you're talking, so I will often, like if I'm writing copy for someone else, I will have already met them obviously, and often for a half day session if we're doing a big project together. And I get a feel for, I've spoken about this before on the podcast, but like a color or a texture or a sensation that I can kind of tap back into and write from their perspective. But sometimes, not always, but sometimes I get, I don't know, a little bit stuck with the starting point. Like there's a piece of me that's a bit, and I don't even know whether that's partially like an ADHD, like a what is that? Oh, goodness me. I've got no words this morning. The thing that stops you from starting something like that demand thing, anyway, demand avoidance is what I'm trying to say. But what I've found is that even if I can, the day before I've got a big day of writing for someone, like if it's web copy, for instance, even if I can just do the shittiest first draft dot points, the next morning, if I'm responding to something, there is no avoidance. And as you're talking, I'm like, so basically the way that I see that I could use tarot is it's something to respond to. So it's a felt sense response rather than, because the avoidance comes from my brain. It's not a body sensation. It's my brain, and it's often the perfectionist or the like, I really want this to be amazing for this person, like that kind of, which of course is all just striving mentality. And if you just tap into your heart and do it, it's actually way more magic than what your brain could ever make it. So yeah, I feel like that you have just given me another tool to tap into, because it's the response that, like, if you ask me a question, I can respond. If I have to come up with something from scratch, sometimes there's some resistance there. And I think that
It's
is
hard.
I think that's a generator thing as well. If you go through a human design lens, as like we are responders. I want to talk to you about, so if someone's just getting started, because I know you've got a workbook too that I want to talk about, because on your website, we have an ability to access the first kind of 3 prompts in your Magickal workbook. Tell us about the workbook that you have, which you just showed me is so beautiful. I'm getting a copy. So yeah, tell us about that.
Yeah, thank you. It's a juicy, fat workbook.
Yes, it is.
That has journaling prompts for every card in the tarot. So when I started, or when I just, when I had that encounter with tarot, and then I was like, I'm going to learn this, I just kind of got encyclopedic about it and got a notebook and started like taking notes from books and podcasts and trying to kind of memorize. And then I started practicing, and that's where things became more fluid. And that's where the learning really deepened, because you're more present rather than trying to like recall something like some historical date, that doesn't have a lot of meaning to you.
Yeah.
And so, once I kind of had this experience with tarot, I also wanted other people to understand it's more accessible than you think, and anyone can use it if they want to. And then, the book developed in the last couple years. So I had been reading and teaching tarot for a little while, and wanted to offer people a different approach that was self-centered. So that the questions not only help you connect with aspects of yourself that you may not be thinking about very much, but then also connect them with the cards so that the cards immediately have some kind of personal significance for you.
Love that.
And that you can take your time with it, go a bit more slowly. And really have this conversation with the tarot. And there's also illustrations. There's also creative prompts. A lot of the questions come from the kinds of things I might ask my clients in a session. So it's meant to both provide self-discovery and then also build your relationship with tarot.
Do you know, as you're talking, because I feel like I'm kind of coming back to the box thing again versus the playful way of self-discovery, because it feels to me like a playground of self-discovery, like a lighter touch way of connecting to yourself and connecting to cards and forming that. So kind of feeling more like the deck is a tool, a creativity and self-connection tool rather than, because I feel like, would you agree that the stickiness sometimes around tarot is that it's putting like this, it's assigning the power to something outside of us rather than saying this is a tool to connect to unseen with us. It's not outsourcing your power. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it has that perception among some people as this fortune telling.
Yes, that's what I mean. Yeah.
Like here's what's going to happen.
Yes.
I was doing readings at a Halloween party recently, and a woman like sat down and she wanted to know if she was like, she'd been with her husband for like 15, 16 years and things were going okay. Like they'd been working on some stuff.
Yeah.
And that seemed to be like going pretty well. But she was like, but is there like another relationship for me? She was kind of asking if she was going to leave her husband. And I'm like, do you want to leave your husband?
Exactly. Like that is your decision.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And we pulled some cards and then she's like, yeah, but
are you telling me yes or no? That's
right. And then we got to a card. I was like, we had this reading. There was one more card. She was still on this like, yeah, but, and I was like, do you want another card? And she was like, yeah. And so we pulled a card and it was the Chariot, but in this particular card, it was a woman in a car driving away from the viewer. And I was like, well,
there's your visible indication. Yes.
But then seeing that, she sort of backpedaled and she was like, well, I guess it'll be up to me. And I was like, this is hilarious. But yes, I think there is that perception the tarot is going to tell you what's going to happen, or it's going to like show you a bad thing in the future that you don't want to know about. And that's not how I use it. Like you said, it's a way for us to like pick up the phone and have a conversation with our unconscious or with our higher self or with our future self or with our ancestors or our spiritual team, like however you want to think about it. And usually it will validate some things you're already thinking and feeling. And it will show you some options and possibilities that you can choose because you always have free will to go forward in a way where you feel more self-assured, or you feel like, okay, it's not just, I'm not crazy for wanting this. I'm not like way out of my mind because I'm not doing what all my friends are doing. Like in a spiritual sense, I'm actually on the right path. And here's some places I can take that. And so it really, to me, gives you access to some information and some insight that you're just not going to get from like even the great advice your friends give you, or maybe it will validate the great advice your friends.
You're just reminding me of when my kids were younger. They're 19 and 20 now, but especially my younger one, she'd be like, I don't know whether this is the right thing or this is the right thing. And so I'd always just choose one and go, well, I'm telling you, you have to do that. And because, of course, then you've got something to respond to, right? And so she's like, but I don't want to do that. I'm like, there's your answer. So it's kind of like the lady with but I don't want to be in the Chariot driving away. There's your answer. I love it. I love it. I love it. Coming back to the workbook, first of all, have I got it right? It's Tarot for Creative Spirits is the workbook.
Yes.
Beautiful. And if someone wants to start with that kind of playful, more lighter touch to the self-discovery and using tarot, would you recommend that they start with a standard tarot deck, or can you start with any, like what would be your kind of, if we were going to say Tarot 101 entry point, if we got the workbook, where would we, like what deck would we be using?
Yeah, I started with the Smith-Waite deck, the very well-known deck that came out in the early 1900s. And my reason for doing that was because most of the writing and the podcasts I was going to encounter would reference those images. So that's where I started. I don't think you have to start there, but I do think it's good to have, if you're really new, I would make sure the deck, like the art in the deck, feels like it activates something for you. So if you're looking at the images and you're kind of like, not getting a lot here, or like, I don't really feel the vibe. I think decks do have personalities, and they have kind of like different voices and tones of voice and sense of humor.
Yes.
And some can be a little like harsher with you. I've had a deck that's just like hardcore, and I'm like,
bossy deck.
yeah,
Really bossy deck. It's like, if you want a clear black and white, and pick one of those.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it takes a minute to kind of figure out the vibe and feel into that, but I recommend definitely choosing like art that feels like it does something for you.
yes.
And also, there are some decks where the minor arcana cards, which are like the pentacles, the wands, the cups, and the swords, where they will not have human, or they will not have, it'll just be the symbols. It'll just be like 7 cups, or it'll be 9 swords, or whatever. And if you're starting with that, that's really not going to give you any sense of story. So I would just make sure that all the cards are kind of illustrated with something that evokes a little bit of story for you.
Yes. Something else that I would say too, because the deck that I started with was not in alignment to the original deck. So it's got extra major arcana cards and things. And that can make learning as a beginner a little bit more tricky, because then you can't just pick up any tarot reference or resource. So I would say, like, understand that the traditional 4 suits, like if they're not called the same thing, just be really clear with what equals what, so that you can, because like I've got like the deck that we were just looking at before, which is Witch's Wisdom, is earth, water, air, fire, instead of the cups, etc. But now that I've connected to lots of other decks, I understand that. But if it was a new person, they'd be like, "But what? You're talking about cups?" And can we have a little play? Can we do some? Can we pull a couple of cards? Would you like to use a deck of yours though? Like if we did
either way, whatever you like.
Let's go. Could you mind playing with these?
Yeah. It's a beautiful deck.
So anyone that's watching the video version of this, I will show you a couple of cards. This is the Witch's Wisdom deck from, I just told you the name and I've forgotten. Phyllis Curott, Curott. But I picked this deck specifically from the illustrations because it's very nature-based and lots of beautiful color. Look at that one. Witch of Water.
Oh, wow.
Like they're just really, really pretty. What sold me on these was there's a card. I can't even remember what card it is, but it's got pomegranates all over it. And I was having a bit of a pomegranate moment. And I was like, this is my deck. Oh, there's one. Look at that. Ace of Air. Beautiful.
Oh, wow.
So
beautiful.
pretty.
Yes.
So pretty. All right. Well, what would you like us to pull for? Do we have a question? What do you think would be best?
Do you want to ask anything about your creativity, or do you want something more general for the listeners?
Do you know what? Hang on. This comes out after that. I just feel like at the time of recording, there's lots of messages in the collective about this being a really heavy time in the, unfolding of the world. And I'm like, I would rather look at a more positive slant to that change. Let's do it anyway, because this will come out early 2025. So let's just do, I don't know, 1 or 3.
Travel.
What do you want to do?
How about 3?
3. All right. I'm not a very good shuffler. Sorry, everybody. It's not a very good thing to be doing on a very sensitive microphone, I guess.
I think it's good to hear the sound. And just a note for everyone that you can shuffle how you want. You can pick your cards however you want. I recommend not messing with the reversed cards for a while. Like, just focus on, even if they come up upside down, just read them right side up.
Yep. And for people that aren't sure what we're even talking about, there's definitely schools of reading that say upside down is a very different, like it's the flip side basically of the right way up. But I would agree. I still don't read reverse because I just think, oh my God, let's just go with All right. That's funny how you say, pick however you want, because I was trained, and this is another box. This is a very good example of a box or a system. When I first learnt to read, it was always cut the deck 3 times with your left hand and choose 3 cards with your left hand. But I'm going to not do that. Okay.
Yeah, you don't have to do that.
So first card, Wisdom Keeper. So number 17. Second card. Ooh, whoopsie. I'm holding these up for anyone that's on video. Moon.
The moon.
Yeah. Beautiful. And Crafts of Fire. So when we say fire, that would be, what is that?
So one.
Wands, sorry.
Nope. Okay.
Ooh.
Beautiful.
That Wisdom Keeper is pretty. So for people that are listening to the audio version, I'd give you a little idea of. So the Wisdom Keeper is an Indigenous person sitting cross-legged in front of a tent-like structure. There's a dog asleep in front of, I don't actually know whether it's gender specific. I think it's actually not gender specific. They have a necklace with bone or some other organic matter attached to it, and in front of them they've got leaves, bones, a mushroom, a rock, 2 feathers, bowl of water, etc. It's very detailed, isn't it? The moon was 2 wolves, 1 howling and 1 being really chill, with a beautiful crescent moon reflected on water with irises or daffodils either side. And final one, Craftsman of Fire, is a, what do you call those people? Blacksmith, clinking away in front of a fire, bare-chested on a, what are they called? Horseshoe. I don't know why I can't speak today. All right, over to you, Cecily.
Beautiful, beautiful cards, beautiful description. Thank you. Yeah. So seeing the Wisdom Keeper, I think so in your deck, it's numbered 17. And if we correlate that to tarot, it would be the star. And I think it's really interesting. I really want to focus on the image that you have and the archetype that's presented. But it makes me think that listening to the people who hold the wisdom, and you and I, or, you were speaking about it at the beginning of our conversation, that like our Indigenous neighbors and fellow humans know a great deal about caring for the earth and what's really important in life, not just money and acquisition of property and capitalism and blah, blah, blah. But those wisdom keepers can take many forms in our, intimate sphere. That can be like an elder, but also, the people who work with plants and work with the land, and the people who are the scientists, the people who are studying things for quite a long time and noticing patterns. And, my hope is that those wisdom keepers would get more attention, but and that their wisdom would be heeded. I don't know if that's going to start happening more in a few months or not. It may come to a kind of point where we're very lost and we don't know what to do. And finally, we listen a bit more. But I think like tapping into longer timelines, I think we feel this like building crisis.
Yes.
I'm in the US, so like the election is next week, and there's this impending dread for so many of us about what's going to happen. And there's that like political crisis we're looking at. I think we're also feeling the climate crisis, which is both of which are bringing like kind of, on the political end, there's something familiar there. There's something that's like a recycling of old things, but we're also at this level of it that is just so imposing and pervasive. And I think we get really caught up in the moment and like what's happening right now. And we tend to forget that humans have been here for tens of thousands of years, longer than we, I think, even realized. And there is wisdom still remaining that isn't just modern that we can access. And I think it's time to probably start thinking about those longer timelines, those older ways of living. I think we're going to have to return to them one way or another.
Definitely.
And
I feel
then
like the pendulum is very much at the tipping point at the moment.
Yeah. Is there anything else I'll say more about the others, but is there anything else you see
I feel
with that
like
card?
I definitely get the slower pace and I just keep on coming back to the sleeping dog. It's like there isn't actually a rush. Like there is no, like when you say like longer timelines, I feel like everything is so immediate in its demand these days, like social media pinging and email and whatever. But even the way that we, or most of us, approach like growing businesses, and it's like if you just tap into the fact that this magic will unfold when it's meant to, as it's meant to, and there's that equal and opposite, be in the now, but not necessarily reacting to everything that's demanding of your attention, because most of it actually doesn't matter. And I do feel like there's like not being in the US around election, like I don't actually watch the news. So I'm so out of the bubble of anything. But even then, because I have clients in the US, I've had lots of conversations, no, not lots, but a few conversations, and people are feel very charged, and particularly the type of work that these few clients do, like it is very connected to breaking of systems, and obviously, elections are a huge part of that. But to me, it's just the slower, tapping into the felt sense, and that there's actually an ancestral sort of feeling to me as well.
Yes. And they're so focused on they seem to be making earth magic and connecting with, they're sitting on the ground, connecting with plants, rocks,
organic.
bones. Yeah.
Very organic. And there's a herd behind them as well, which are kind of like, I don't know, there's connecting to land. There's definitely land connection.
Yeah.
A beautiful card. I've never pulled that one before. So there you go.
Very cool.
New to me.
And then you have the moon, which I think feels appropriate, like feeling into the future to the extent I can. I think the moon can be a very disorienting card, kind of like you're inside of a dream where things just feel very strange. It's like, is this really happening? Like, is this going on? Yeah. And a lot of unconscious material can be coming up for examination. Also like intuitive connection. So I imagine I could see how the coming year, 2025, will feel like, what is this reality? How do we navigate this? Like the world is changing so quickly. I'm disoriented. And I can see how the wisdom keeper can really function as an anchor,
like a guide,
when we're in the moon vibes.
It feels very watery too, like that very emotional depths, mystery, unseen, unknown. Also never picked that one. How bizarre.
Yeah.
Okay.
And more dogs. We have other canines.
Yes.
And then you have the Craftsman of Fire, which could be the page or the knight.
I think it might be the knight. I could work it out, but anyway, we'll just go with whatever we intuitively think.
Yes, we'll just read that as it looks. But I think we're going to need to practice the skills that help us, I don't know, live and survive. Like there's in that card, that's a craft that is now performed by like heavy machinery. And I think there's, I don't know, like I also feel this in my own life. Like I wish I knew more. I was a better gardener. I knew how to build things. I wish I knew how to filter water or like capture sunlight and turn it into energy. yeah, I think that practicing either, if we read it with the other cards, the Wisdom Keeper and the Moon, maybe practicing and becoming even stronger in our skills around connecting with older wisdom, attuning to ancient wisdom, our capacity to feel what we're experiencing rather than trying to shut that off. I think our ability to feel what's happening or like feel our reaction to what's happening is going to be really important. And then just the kind of skills of like getting along with your neighbors or finding out like how who knows how to do this. Like I definitely think everyone needs to know an herbalist.
Yes, I know. Oh my goodness. Yeah.
And people who know how to grow food.
Yeah. Well, we do grow our own food. That's one
Good.
thing we do. And we also have just this week connected our boar. We've got a boar in our backyard that's never had a pump in it. So we have discovered that we have 4 hours of
Oh, you have a water
sprinkling our
source.
vegetable garden accessible water that is actually clean enough, and like we had it tested and everything, it's actually drinking, so we can fill our tank if we need to.
That's amazing.
It's interesting, as you're talking, I'm feeling like less reliance on the system and more reliance on self and neighbors and community. And almost like a devotion to craft, right? Like you don't get to the stage of being able to hammer something into what you would like without hours, hours in.
Yeah.
Of mastery and practice. And it's interesting, in the background of this card, there's 2 swords hanging up, and one of those like curved, is it a sickle kind of? And then 2, what are those things called? Barrels, kind of.
Yes.
No. It's like, what are you storing in those barrels? Are you completely self-sufficient? I want to know, is there grain in there? It's so funny, isn't it? That's a perfect example, though, of how you're saying, like, to read it as a story, which I think when I very first learned, that's probably what I was taught. But these days, I more often will just pull a card. So you've just reconnected me back to that. Yeah, the storytelling across an arc of something.
I think it's great to start with 1 card pulls and pull at the beginning of the day and maybe just look at the card for a full minute.
Yeah.
Don't reach for the guidebook right away and just like look at what you notice. Notice how your body's reacting. Notice any feelings or memories that come up. Maybe journal for 5 or 10 minutes and then go about your day and kind of think about that card at the end to see if it had any connection for you. And maybe then if you want to look at the guidebook, but I really discourage people from just like picking that up because it's just another version of like looking elsewhere for an answer.
Just another box.
When tarot can really help you develop your connection with your own wisdom. So, and then, practicing from there, it's good to pull a couple and just see like what connections you notice, what story is there. But it's endlessly fascinating to me.
I'm going to be fascinated to listen back to this in January after, given that we're recording at the end of October. Okay, where can people find you? And also, as we were talking about the workbook, the first 3 prompts are available on your website as an opt-in. So where are you on the interwebs?
Yes, I'm at typewritertarot.com or on Instagram at Typewriter Tarot. I have a Substack as well where I share some autobiographical writing prompts that are inspired by the cards and some monthly tarot scopes. And that's typewritertarot.substack.com. But yeah, if you go to typewritertarot.com and the email opt-in, you'll get the first 3 prompts from the book. That's the Fool and the Magician and the High Priestess.
Ooh. I'm obsessed with the Empress at the moment. Not obsessed. She picked me. This year I was asking for my word and she's like, it's me. And I'm like, no, it's not. I'm not the Empress. And then yes. Anyway, so that's the archetype that's all over my office. It's all over in front of me, everything. So yeah,
I can see
I
it.
love it. Thank you so much. This has been so fun. So fun. And I just encourage anyone listening who, as we're talking about creativity and magic and accessing connection to self, if it all sounds like it's kind of a little bit alien or something that you haven't experienced or felt for yourself, to go, and I would just go and buy the workbook personally. But if you want to start with opt-in, that's fine as well. But yeah, just have something to respond to. If you're not a person like we were just talking about that can kind of imagine from scratch or come up with, understanding of yourself from scratch, having those journal prompts to be like an entry point to developing that is such a powerful thing for so many people. What would you say? The only thing that's kind of pinging in my head is I'm hearing a friend of mine go, "But I hate journaling." Do you get those people? Can you talk the prompts out loud?
Yeah, I guess you could. I think, I can see, similar to, what you were saying when you have to start writing something and you're just looking at this blank page and you're like, what do I do? I don't know what I want to say.
Yeah.
Which is why I create the prompts to help you find that entry point or start somewhere. And I do think that journaling I think it also helps like clear the channel. And, so people who are doing morning pages, like that's a beautiful way to start the day and just sort of dump out your thoughts and get them out of the way so you can move forward with whatever you have to do. And I also think it's really clarifying. Like sometimes I'll be, maybe it's on page 2 or 3 after getting through some other stuff that I really notice this truth or this thing that I want or this fear that's holding me back, but it's not immediately at the front of my mind. And we're very layered humans. We have a lot of complex overlapping things going on in our psychology. And so it's really interesting to find how I think journaling can help us see connections that we're not noticing and really bring things into our awareness that once they're there, we can do something with them. And
totally agree. I totally agree. I again resist journaling a lot, but when I do it like on repeat, I'm so much clearer and more centered in myself. A journaling prompt that I started this year, very early in the year, I heard Elizabeth Gilbert talk to somebody on her podcast, and it was their response to her love, what would you have me know today journal prompt. So she actually talks to and journals from love, unconditional love, to herself as an entry point, and then unfolds from there. And that was actually especially when I was very stuck in this kind of loop of feary sort of stuff earlier on in the year, that was a good access point because it was completely different to where I was, energetically and mindset wise. So love was like the opposite of the voice that I was hearing a lot of inside. But then, it was just an entry point, like you were saying, like it's just it's to find the access point and then empty out. And then, it's like, oh, this is what's under the surface. Oh, I see. No wonder I haven't been blah, blah, blah. Anyway.
Yes.
Thank you. Such a juicy conversation. What a joy. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much. Wonderful to talk to you. Thank you for having me.
No worries. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks for tuning in to Wild and Finally Fucking Free. I'm Kylie, your host. And given that I know you would have enjoyed this episode, please do us a favor and subscribe, leave a review, and share it with fellow freedom seekers. Remember, being seen in all our mess and magic helps heal ourselves and the world, because the world needs more wild and finally fucking free humans. Have a great day.